Welcome back to the most professional StarCraft here with the former world champion Zerg in the red, currently invading Korea. It's Reynor, the Italian stallion, up against the Protoss in the blue. One of the most interesting to watch right now, Nightmare, the surgeon. A best of 3 PvZ between two very different players and some of the youngest currently in the game. Nightmare is the youngest Korean player in the GSL, but he's preceded by a few years by the Italian stallion himself. And if you could stand to be a few years younger, it'd be awesome if you could like and subscribe. And Jimmy, what are we... That's not mean, it's true. 1,308 likes on this series, on this cast, on this video. And I'll cast another one, and I'll probably do it anyways. But thank you for watching. Hopefully you've had a good day so far. And hopefully it's about to get just a little bit better. Reynor versus Nightmare. I have no idea. This feels like one of those games that it's about a 50-50 that it's going to be a full-on stomp one way or another, though I'd say probably trending in Reynor's direction. Or, that's a dark shot. Never mind. No more pontificating. No more elaborating. Instead, we're hiding cheese and other. Actually, no. It's just straight up Dark Shrine. 100% rush to DTs. No, do not pass go. Do not research Blink or Glaives or even get a Stargate. Not even for a Void Ray to potentially hide it. Now, going straight for DTs actually kind of massive pretty well to the Overlord, who's currently hanging out, as it does, gliding by, looking for the gases. You're not going to be taking those gases until at least like 4 minutes or something like that. But there's no real tell here. The only tell will be a lack of Oracle. So there won't be any other information until then. 10 Zerglings on the way for Reynor, who's, this is the counter to Adepts early. He's building, oh, it's getting a little dicey here, but 14, 16 lings, just making sure he doesn't take any damage from Adepts. But it doesn't appear he has suspicions about the Dark Shrine yet. But the Oracle should be coming in right about now. 4 minutes, 4:10, maybe 4:20 at the latest. And blazing through those workers. But yeah, a Spore Crawler, but only at the third base. And the severe lack of Oracle is a revelation in and of itself. Right now, starting to figure it out. The DTs have already been warped into the main. He's only got 2 gates here to start. He can warp in 2 more on the other side. A second, yeah, well, if he didn't know for sure before, that Spore Crawler clearly indicates he knows what he's dealing with. Yeah, sees the third base. Now, Reynor's not going to have any detection. He's not going to have an Overseer to come across the map with a counterattack. So he's kind of limited to defense here. The DTs on the Raider can't... Oh, he knows. Oh, he is absolutely confident. But the DTs still cloaked and unable to be detected until they stray within range of the Spore, and that's why the Prism is here. The Queens... will politely yet firmly whisk the Prism away. Oh, is he going to go for the Archons here on the high ground? Goes directly up to the high ground, slightly out of vision. Reynor's just sending everything across, gambling that there's not going to be a response. Really? Just dances back and forth, tries to bait out a warp and doesn't even bother. And is already coming back. So, oh my. Oh, the Spore Crawler was moved in front. I was wondering how they had detection already, but the Queens, respectfully, sir, get off my creep. Well, who's gonna stop me? You and what army? Now that... Well, the Queens caught, transfuse, chasing down one, another transfuse. Solid save there. Actually just targeted the Queens, but the Queens bite back. And, oh, one Archon will go down. The second gets away with full HP. The War Prism also escapes, so he traded the HP on the Prism and almost a second Archon. He traded an Archon for the first one. So not an ideal trade for Nightmare, but he bit off significantly more than he could chew. And Protoss can't chew very much, considering they don't have mouths. 5 minutes today. Spire is on the way. It's time for Mutas. And it looks like Reynor, he wants to demonstrate why Protoss players essentially start the game with a Stargate and not anything else, as mutas are rarely on the table as a direct option. Sometimes as a sort of big tech switch after the early game when you can mask it, but there is no built-in anti-air. He's just now building a Spire. Charge is done. An Archon charge lot timing is dangerous here, and the muted den is completed, but, well, actually Rainor's gonna have to deal with this first off, as mutas are not gonna turn the tides of this fight. The Queens are doing their best. The Ravager's on the back line. That War Prism, an EMP and a strong gust of wind will knock it away. Corrosive Biles will do the same, but he's able to dodge back. But again, Nightmare getting caught will cost him the Archon that survived. And Nightmare is pushed back. No, really? Ooh. Corrosive Biles not quite landing, but good enough. Reynor did spend most of his resources here in dealing with that attack, so he's driven back for now. The mutas are not yet in production. You usually want at least 5 of them in order to be able to kill those probes more efficiently. Only takes 5 hits. 6 of them now, and they just stop moving. Glide to a stop, knocks out the Ravager. And actually great micro right now out of Nightmare. A Queen almost hunted down, but the Zerglings come in. Gets an eject off. It looks like the Zealots enough to deal with the Lings. And the Queen not being targeted. Zerg saved the Queen. Mutas, though, on the field. Gets a Contaminate, the tactical goop to delay the upgrades a little bit longer, and the mutas knock out the Prism. That had been a thorn in his side since pretty much the beginning of the aggression here. Prism is knocked out. There's only 6 Stalkers on the field. The anti-air is lackluster. Storm is completed. So fighting against the Storm makes things a lot more difficult. But eventually, oh my god, those Storms were beautiful. Another one could come in. Gets an Archon merge. Focusing, and the Blink Stalker is just now completed. Nightmare deflecting the mutas and driving back the roaches. A solid defense thus far, but he still has to contend with the mutas in the main, and Reynor has 75 drones with which to fall back on. 7 probes, only 2 Stalkers here. They don't have great upgrades. Immortals caught. Again, Nightmare with some great moves, but getting caught these core units. He's lost Archons and 4 Immortals so far. It's just so much. He's bleeding out. Well, not literally. That's more the Zerg in this case, but he's putting together the core of a strong army. But Reynor keeps driving to the heart of it and ripping out some of the key units. And with the economy, Reynor still has 75 drones. He's going on 5 bases. Nightmare hasn't even taken a 4th Nexus. And 9 more Mutalisks are on the way. Which, not surprising, but definitely a more rare choice. He didn't decide to go for the Hive. He didn't get the Infestation Pit, nor the Hydra Den. Instead, it's going to be more Mutas. And if Nightmare's not going to take it seriously, Reynor will demand it. No Stargate at all means 13 Mutas on the field are a deadly force. And an existential threat to the probes. In fact, the Stalkers aren't even that great against them in higher numbers, as not all the Stalkers can be brought to bear. Give any Zerglings the Storms, but he flies right past, gonna force the Archon merges. Actually softens up the mutas. They do heal rather quickly. They have to survive to do so, but gonna lose some more probes. 5 probes down thus far. Banelings at the front, and the Zealots are not spread out enough to deal with this. I don't think there are any more Storms. He's forced to merge into Archons. Mutas in the main. Another Contaminate on the upgrades. The Overseer survived long enough to get 2. Working on the cannon. Kill some more probes. Zerglings on the base. No cancel. Things are coming apart for Nightmare right now. It's not getting any easier. 30 more Zerglings. 30 more Banelings to replace them. Maybe the other way around, but 10 probes down, and Nightmare becoming, well, this game becoming a bit of himself for him. +1 flyer attack. About completed. isn't really needed here, but Nightmare... Well, the Zealots are standing by. Muta's picking him apart, but with no Banelings, the Zealots... more than a match for the Zerglings, but the Mutas are coming in. Banelings trying to come from the north side. Nightmare with a surprising amount of army supply. Reynor's got to be careful about particularly bad trades, as now Archons and Storm. Muta's getting caught. As he's fighting on the other side, the Storms around the edges. War Prism just hanging out, loses another 4th base. But he drives back Reynor's army. A contingent of Zealots is sprinting down the center, just directly into the heart of the swarm, getting distracted by some of the buildings on the high ground. So strung out, the Zerglings are easily going to be able to surround and kill. There'll be a bit of a missed opportunity there, but Nightmare's going to continue forward. And the question is, does he have the army to end the game? Or can Reynor whittle him down and take it home? As Nightmare doesn't have a 4th, he needs to end it here, whereas Reynor needs to hold. Banelings from the north side. There's still some Storms on the back line. A bit late on popping the Storms, but gets an Archon merge off. A huge deal at this stage of the game. Meanwhile, the Stalker's starting to be drained on HP, but they use their shields so well. And Reynor is actually struggling to put together the army to deal with this. He's caught in between his hatcheries. The reinforcements are cut off. The circulation between the bases is being choked right now, and the Queen's gonna be caught. There's no creep here. And Nightmare is making a mountain out of something, well, larger than a molehill, but he's exactly where he needs to be in this exact scenario. The drones are pulled off the line. Archon protected by the Blink Stalkers. Only one Archon left. If he loses too many drones, then suddenly Reynor, Nightmare, is... He's still got the army supply. The Zealots are incredibly cost-effective in small numbers, even against roaches. And wait a second. Oh, no. Nightmare may have used the oldest strategy in the book, and Reynor, with his cutesy Mutalisk moves, may have fallen prey to it. He says, well, if he's doing something crazy, just go fucking kill him. And here we are. Reynor looking dead in the water. Nightmare takes game 1 in a dramatic turnaround. I think all Zerg players have been there, but it's a hard one. Reynor gonna have to go back to the spawning pool on that. The Mutalisk, he just didn't get to the Hive Tech in time, and Nightmare's control of those spellcasters. I may have shown a bit of bias there, just assuming Reynor would run him over. And Nightmare was not using them well enough, but the Storms were perfect. I didn't think he'd have enough of them. Nightmare thought otherwise. We're going into Ghost River, game 2. A beautiful execution, in every sense of the word, from Nightmare. But can he keep it up? Reynor knows the dangers of that unit composition, but still fell prey to him. Reynor does not like going for that sort of turtley. He did have the Greater Spire by the end. Important to point out. But never got to the Broodlords. Quite late on the Hive in general. It looked like, and I can't blame Reynor for thinking he could just kill him, but Nightmare handled it beautifully. He sacrificed some of his probes, but the Blink Stalkers and the Storms were enough. And even though the ham-fisted Zealot counterattack looked like a waste of money and time, instead it opened up the opportunity to do the deadly timing. And that's what Nightmare has come to be known for. He maybe doesn't have the best macro. Okay. He doesn't have the perfect setups, but when it comes down to individual unit control or small groups of units, he just seems to get so much out of those units. And Protoss units are known for being some of the most effective. The Probe is probably the highest cost to damage ratio unit in the game. Or forget about Ghosts. Forget about Broodlords and Infestors, or even Queens. The Probe is the only unit that can build cannons. Alright? I guess technically an SCV could build like a planetary, but I don't think that really counts. Nor will I. So the Probe has probably the highest resource investment. Okay, it's not exactly a fair comparison, but past that, I got a little sidetracked. Nightmares control those Templar. Just immaculate. And remember, he started with the Dark Templar, transitioned into the High Templar. From the darkness into the light. Archons all the time. This time around, it's going to be Stargate. I don't think you pull off the Dark Shrine again. At least not in Game 2. I mean, it wasn't really successful, but it wasn't unsuccessful. It just was. He got the Archons. He didn't lose the DTs. He forced the detection. It's an artificial limiter on the economy there. And Reynor actually bounced out of it, but it looks like the mutas were just too much. Okay, we're in Game 2, all right? We don't have to keep finding new creative ways to rehash the same terms. Then again, if I couldn't find new creative ways to rehash similar situations, we would have run out of content several 1,000 games ago. Like and subscribe. Oracles come back, but the Zergling count is low enough that even a single Stalker and the threat of an Oracle will drive them back. Reynor with another round of drowns. Really? Close. Will he go out for it? He's coming back towards the Pervert Pillar. He's gonna go. And the Oracles are here to protect... what? Okay. He got it. Falls to the earth. And another pylon canceled. These Zerglings, incredibly annoying. Oh, Treacle's completed. The trifecta here. Usually you'll have one Oracle for just utility. Revelation, building stasis towards the back. 2 Oracles can burn through mineral lines and be more aggressive. It just seems to be the number that is favored by most Protoss. Occasionally, it's kind of like the 3-per build for Terran against Zerg, where 3 is the baseline, but some players will go 4 or 5. Some players will just build 2. Kind of depends how you're feeling. Okay, whether you woke up on the right side of the spawning pool. You know. It'd be weird if you woke up in the spawning pool as Protoss. Moving on. Roach Warren on the way. Lair has begun. Stalker demonstrating why the pylon is usually built in that exact location. Kind of jammed in next to the mineral line. Blink on the way. And +1 on the ground. For both sides. Melee attacks for Reynor. Some stasis to back up the Blink Stalkers. No, just holding onto the energy for now. More pylons to choke things off. Slap down a Revelation, even revelating those rocks. Templar Archives and Robo behind this, so Nightmare kind of masquerading an early attack, but instead really focused on the follow-up. Those 3 Oracles make it essentially impossible for the Zerglings to do much about it. Yeah, Zerg getting pushed back. Infestation pit much quicker this time. Smells like... well... not entirely convinced on the Swarm Host. I'm thinking, but he doesn't really have the gas. It looks like a Hive Tech rush. Ideally for Lurkers. The Adrenal Glands, that Adept. Badly bruised. All 3 Oracles light up. Bit of a inefficient move there, but... well, he has some good surface area with the Oracles and the Shield Battery. Not gonna find too much against the Stalkers. Hive is on the way. Hydra Den done. Lurker Den. Where are you gonna build it? Here? Or here? Close. Lurkers it is. Storm on the way. Nightmare using it to great effect. And gonna try to do so again. Just keeping tabs with scouting lanes. Reynor's at 83 drones and adding a few more. So I'm sure he's gonna put some spines and spores into the mix. Psy Storm. Nearly completed. How many Templar? 4 Templar, building up that energy. Oh, so many Zerglings. 76 Zerglings on the field right now. 10 Hydras. How many of those are going to be Lurkers? It doesn't actually have very much gas for anything but upgrades. So an army that can zone out the Blink Stalkers and any other gateway unit. And then, as time goes on, work its way up towards Lurkers. Lurker range in production. Is there a Baneling Nest? No. Adrenal Glands plus 2 melee. All the rocks going to be taken down. And anything that keeps them off the open field is an offense to Zerg. Alright. Will we work on the other ones? Goes for the surround. Those rocks will never get away. Sorry, Dustin. 2 Immortals at a time and drop Overlords. Operation Overlord will begin. Where is he Is this a... Oh, no, I was excited. Not a storm drop. Just some zealots in there. The opportunity. He actually hasn't revealed the Templar yet, though. I believe Reynor has... He might not have seen the Templar archives, but... Oh, wow. 4 Overlords of soon-to-be Cracklings with that Adrenal Glands upgrade. Just headed for the center of the map. Banelings could maybe be useful against the army, but you'd have to get through the Blink Stalkers first. Plenty of stasis. A bunch of Lurkers. Reynor setting up a multi-pronged attack while Nightmare has a multifaceted defense. Fleet Beacon is on the way. The Scouting Adept plunks in. Zerglings trying to wrap around, but the stasis will catch a handful. And another one might be enough. Big storm to start. Overlords? Maybe dropping a little early. He meant to drop behind the wall, otherwise he finds himself in an advanced version of the same situation. So he kind of gives up that tactic, and now the Lurkers are getting stuck! Oh no! Wait, what? One got through there. That was odd. Anyways, more stasis. They've clearly paid off thus far. Nightmare's multi-tiered defense looking so good right now. He's got multiple cannons, stasis wards in depth, and storm as well as immortals. So he's got the direct counter to Lurkers. Well, maybe not direct, but at least solid counter that he can use to turn the tables on him. But he's got a lot of work to do first, as one misstep or even one bit of time with... Oh my god, the stasis is so perfect. Those Zerglings are freaking out because their friends are frozen right now. And literally a force field with the stasis. He can't get through. There's no anti-air here, which is going to become more relevant when the 3 carriers arrive. But another stasis split off. A perfect split there. Reynor only eats 1 stasis, or 1 Zergling in stasis. Immortals and Zealots on the way. The Overseer will spot the carriers. Not 1, but 2 Spires, as Reynor is inspired to much greater anti-air. The Lurker is trying to reposition. There's only 6 bases on each... Oh my. Really making full use of those stasis wards. There's 1 more. I don't know if Reynor spotted it. You don't really want to storm your own probes. That stasis is beautiful. He moves the probes away out of the storm. What a beautiful move out of Nightmare. That was absolutely perfect. Surgical even. As Nightmare now, well, the carriers are out, but he does have to deal with the Lurkers. They're starting to hit the Nexus. Enough of them in range that it's under real threat. No mothership or something on the... Oh my god, the Zergling's ripping it apart. Wow, those Cracklings doing so much damage. Mauling apart the Nexus. And Nightmare's beaten back to 3 bases, though he is maxed out. Last game, Reynor picked him apart. He knocked down his economy. He forced him into an all-in. And Nightmare showed his cards and came up with a victory. This is far from that position. Nightmare has plenty of probes. He still has plenty of production. His army composition is amazing. It's going to be very difficult for Reynor to deal with. He's got 5 Templar, 4 Immortals underneath. He's got +3 ground attack, and he's working on air weapons as well as shields. So, no, oh my god, the Zergling stutter step. Oh, Reynor. Well, that Nexus is, oh my god. Nightmare just cancels it. Let's go to the Reynor cam for just a moment. Setting up the lurkers, making sure he can defend. Got some corruptors, spore crawlers moving forward, vipers, injects, spots it. Wow, spot it so quick on the minimap. Zerglings pulling back and constantly flipping to his production as well. Oh, but he might be able to catch one of the carriers. Get over here! Gets one, gets two. That was the worst recall I think I've ever seen. Well, maybe not the worst because he got out, but an absolutely embarrassing recall right there. He went for, like, all he had to do was a leisurely pass towards the Nexus, and he just scored on his own goal. Wow. And now recall's on cooldown, which that panic recall may very well be the start of dismantling the Skytoss composition. He already killed 3 carriers. There's no easy way to reposition, especially if you don't even have a Nexus. The caustic spray, but he's not going to lose the Corruptors. He probably could have killed it, but it would have cost at least a half dozen Corruptors there, and that's just certainly not worth it at this stage. Honestly, killing Nexi, it's 400 minerals. He has more bases. It's not that important in the grand scheme of things. And there's only so many bases on this map, so there's a very real chance we mine it out. Fighting in the middle of the map. Blinding cloud. Storms on either side. Still has an opportunity to yank the carrier in. Snipes off a Viper. And the carrier gets knocked down as well. The Zerglings, as well as a few lurkers, able to take out the Nexus. Still, the death ball is built, but Reynor has money in the bank. It's very easy to lose it. Both sides a similar army cost. 57 to 6,500, and then 3,600 gas, almost equal. There's a warp prism in the back corner with a couple of zealots in there, hovering over the Ghost River. I do wonder if Nightmare even remembers it. I'm sure he'll notice it at some point. There's spores and spines in the back protecting his spires, which are in the mineral line. Stasis at the front. Nightmare just fortifying this front position. The lurkers and Zerglings still in position to rip apart any attempts at a new Nexus. I have no idea where that probe is coming from, but it's taken forever. Might be stuck somewhere. The lurkers in an awkward spot. There's really not that much anti-air here, but the Corruptors and Vipers are coming down. He's got 1-1 done in the skies. Working on 2-2. +2 air weapons about to complete for Nightmare, though. Very helpful for the carriers, especially against the carapace of the Corruptors. Zealots cross-hatched. Been taken out. Viper, feedback, another feedback, 0 out of 5. Deserving of death. Alright. Never talk to me or my Yelp reviews ever again. 3 Tempests on the way. I do love how Nightmare recognizes. Alright, well, he recognizes the situation where we may be dragged into a stalemate, which Tempests are actually better suited, especially in a relatively low economy situation. Alright, they're both rich, but only Reynor can rebuild his army. Nightmare can't afford to just repeatedly lose. He only has 2k, 1,500 in the bank, which sounds like a lot until you start pressing the carrier button. These probes, quite unhappy. At least one of you will be able to build the Nexus. For now. Tectonic destabilizers on the way. The Tempest anti-building damage, which Dorito dusts all those shots, turns them orange, which we all know does more damage to buildings. Just like blue is the science color. I won't listen to people who say green is the science color. They're wrong, objectively, via blue science. Moving on. Tempests, growing in number. 3 of them done, but that's just the start. And the Viper yanks at a carrier just barely enough to not kill the carriers in a single volley. +3 air is on the way. And +3 shields. Is just +3 shields. Wow. Been a while. If he gets there. Reynor is ripping apart the third base again. The weak point directly in the center of everything. Infestors in production. Greater Spire and +3 Flyer Carapace. It's not early, but still both players really pumping out the upgrades. We're gonna have a almost unit tester level battle between these two late game armies. And they haven't been idle. Reynor is anything but. He desperately tries to get the damage done. You saw the drop earlier. The attempts for repeated backstabs. But he hasn't made the mistake of going all in on that mid-game. But instead, he's built up a solid bank and entrenched himself with the lurkers and the queens. Do we have to do everything? Lucille, you've been here for what, 14 years? Why do you keep asking these questions? It's 14 years. Injects, creep spread. Okay, let alone healing. We have to heal everyone. Okay, other raid. Whoa, where did... We can't even heal off creep anymore. Anyways, we need to move. Stop. Just... We'll talk about it later. Well, moving on. The lurkers softened up by the storms, but it takes several. And they're weathering it for now. The Archon count is huge, but they're actually kind of jostling for position against the Templar. As Reynor sieges forward, the lurkers working on the Nexus. Getting some pickoffs here. Nightmare with the Tempest. Not quite enough yet. Still working. But Corruptors. Fungal catches the carrier. Down to 1. The Tempest with more guaranteed damage, not relying on the Interceptors. There's an Observer at max range, sieged up, starting to chew through the lurkers, trying to work on the Corruptors. Down goes the Nexus. Zerglings on the third base as it comes up again. Storms are chewing away at the lurkers, but not fast enough for Nightmare. Another volley of Tempest Fire, which is still so goddamn loud, even though its literal sound got nerfed several patches ago. It used to be louder. Fun fact. Not for your eardrums. I believe it's the loudest attack in the game. And I can't hear otherwise. Ultralisk Cavern on the way. As Reynor realizes he's done the damage, the Ultra Cavern here is a finishing move. Something to chew through cannons and close the distance with Templar. Usually, the Ultras feel a bit lackluster, but in this case, possibly the right call. Yeah, those Tempests. Obviously, Tempest going to be quite a solid counter to Ultras, but as well as those Immortals underneath. 11 Tempests on the field. Lurkers underneath. Slices through. And down goes the Oracle as well, which means he doesn't have much reliable detection. Another Oracle. Nightmare's doing such a good job of countering this, but again, how many times do I have to teach you this lesson? The Zerglings will get it. Another Nexus. That's 4. God, my ears. The Interceptor's taken out immediately. Reynor with 8K, 7K in the bank. He's got a lot of leeway here, but this is such a cost-effective army. Nightmare knows it, but Reynor is doing a great job of forcing the issue. He unpowers a pylon that was powering all those cannons.
Who does that?
And a disaster for the defense. More fungals coming through, but the storms will counter in turn. And there's more than enough shields that the storms drive the Corruptors back before they can do real damage here. Moracles being added in. The constant revelations tries to catch with the fungals. Broodlord's on the backline. Broodlord and Fester. Old. Maybe not so good, but definitely not as dangerous as it once was. All those units have less range and effectiveness. but still the longest range Zerg has to offer. God, the Tempests, like double-digit Tempests are so loud. Oh my god. And he takes out the Nexus. Maybe it's the tectonic destabilizers, alright? Like and subscribe so I can find an ear doctor. Or whatever they're called. A hearologist. I don't think that's right. Charge lots in towards the natural. And this is the exact move that undid Reynor last game. Drew him out of position and allowed Nightmare to take the cost-effective fight he needed to turn it all around. And he does need to turn it right now. The Death Ball is moving forward. The Infestors and Broodlords are not to be distracted. The Zealots are working their way through. Lurkers doing the damage. Zerglings, I think, select all army there out of Reynor. With Nightmare sieging forward, he takes out the forward base. There's still some gas here left to be mined. Revelation, the Queen's out in front. Getting caught for now. 4 Ultras on the way, which is a bold move at this stage of the game. Reynor knows that Nightmare's in a tough position, economically. But he doesn't know exactly how tough, and that's the struggle. It could be enough to rebuild a dozen Tempests, or it could be enough to build just one. It's actually the second one right now, but only we can see. Because Nightmare's done such a good job of keeping his strongest units alive. He's lost 3,000 less gas. So of course he's mined significantly less as well, obviously. But he's just chewing through. There's nothing contesting it. The Ultras are on the way. They don't have chitinous plating, but against this army, I don't think armor's that important. Against Immortals and Archons. The Zerglings, again, getting through. And it's not a super pylon! Oh no, but here come the Infestors. The Ultras underneath. The Broodlords over the top. The Ultras try to close the distance, but the Storms are beautiful right now. He backs off with more. The Carriers on the front line. The Corruptors trying to dodge Storms around the top. But he's kept so many Templar alive. The Archon's on the way. Does he have detection? The Tempest count has dipped precipitously. Reynor has rebuilt 12 Ultras. The army is still 6 Tempests and a Carrier. Ultras don't care about your stasis wards. They're not big enough to deal with it. 5 Tempests. 4 Tempests. He's building Infestors. Neural Parasite could turn the last Tempest against one another. A dozen Ultras seems like a bold move. 13 Ultralists! Nightmare has 16 probes left, but he's got 92 army supply. Some of it is in the main base. The Zealots will be... Oh my god, that's so many Ultras. Oh, the recall is way too late. Oh my god. Nightmare just had an absolute panic attack at those Ultras. I need to see the Nightmare cam in this scenario. It's like, oh my god, oh my god. No time to reposition. The Templar die immediately. Wait, okay, I didn't even know this. Stasis wards don't even trigger on Ultras? That feels like a bug. Like, they should trigger, just not do anything. Because the Ultras are too, and this is a direct quote, dummy thick. It's weird they don't, I didn't know that. The more you know. Well, Neural Parasite exists. Now Zergling gets caught. And now Reynor's got a few Tempests to his name, and he didn't even start his Protoss. JJ, Reynor strikes back with a decisive, if tenuous victory, which seems to contradict that, but still. A really solid finisher there. Even if it looked dicey, he had 200 supply and nothing in the bank. So he used everything he had and nothing more. Nightmare's still so dangerous in that late game scenario. It really looked like he could turn it around. But Reynor took the fight. The Ultras do seem like they were the right call by the end of the day. And Nightmare is chewed to pieces just in time. It was the continued backstabs with the Zergling. And occasionally the Lurkers and Ultras what made the difference and brings us all tied up to game number 3. solid series thus far. They seem... Reynor's been struggling with his EVP. There's a reason he plays Protoss against Zerg. But he's able to hold it together. Nightmare just struggling with the counterattacks. I think a similar style of game. Not the units, not exactly how it played out, but with Reynor continually poking and prodding and ripping away probes and canceling and destroying Nexi. And again, Nightmare built the army. Capital T. H-E. No. Moving on. But it wasn't enough. The backstabs, and the key difference was, instead of the late game being Mutas, or the latest game, it was Broodlord and Fester. Even then, still a bit dicey, but Nightmare's so scary to face with those armies. The Tempests were clearly the right call. Once again, not for my eardrums, but God, it's so loud. Maybe it's, I don't know, is it loud for you? All right, do I need to speak up? Is there a ringing in the background? I don't... Like and subscribe. Stargate. Nightmare sticking with it. Game 1 did not go... Well, it did go well enough with the Twilight, but it's one of those strats, and that's always the struggle with Protoss, is outside of the Stargate, you have cards to play, but the timing and effectiveness vary widely. Without the Stargate and the Oracle specifically, you don't have reliable scouting, you don't have built-in anti-air, you don't really have a decent way of dealing with a big ground all-in, unless you happen to be building the right counter. So you run the risk of being left without in a dramatic way if you don't go Stargate. That's just kind of how it is. I mean, on the other side of things, if you're Zerg and you don't build enough queens, well, that's it. All right. So it's not like Zerg has a ton of variety in the early game, but honestly, Zerg versus Protoss really does kind of build out into a much more... Oh, that's a lot of damage. And he just cancels the Roach one in his face. A bit odd not to wait until the, Oh, get off my... Revenge. Great job, Brenda. You got him. Well, losing the Oracle hurts a bit, but Reynor slowed down dramatically here. Some of the Adepts shading across. Gonna do the standard early game pressure. The advanced, the dangerous scouting party expeditionary force of Oracles and Adepts. Reynor should have enough Queens and Lings to deal with it, but the positioning matters more than the number sometimes. That's a fancy way of saying it's not about how much you have, it's about how you use it. But at some point, with half a dozen Queens wandering around, and the Zerglings in position, you're gonna have a tough time. And he gets the wraparound here, the Queens over the top, targeting the Oracle. They know the Adepts, well, the Zerglings will handle them. Almost finish off the Oracle. And Nightmare overstayed his welcome. And he wasn't welcome at all, so by default. Zerglings sprinting across. "61 drones, but just starting a lair, Reynor. So, decent economy, but definitely could be better. Nightmare looking for a proxy gate slash hatchery block. More proxy gate than hatchery block, I think, here. Proxy gate indeed. Wants to do a much more committed blink time. How many gates are we looking at? 7? That's number 8 up there. second pylon just to make sure. No gases. Forge and +1. So this is one of those attacks that seems not so dangerous to start, but then after a couple warp-ins, suddenly there are so many stalkers, they're blocking for the other stalkers, which is when that critical mass becomes relevant. And here we are. Oracles over the top. Stasis at the back to protect against the flank. Hydrodens on the way for Reynor, who's up to 70 drones, which is a bit high for this, but he spots the stasis. Zerglings, but a vanguard of stalkers holds the front line. Blinks forward, chasing down the queens. And oracles will burn through, but a full surround of Zerglings is starting to rip apart the stalkers. Blinking back. Any more warp-ins coming soon. The Zerglings are thinning out, but the stalker count remains high enough. Another wave of Zerglings. Does he have the larva? He does for now. Hydra's in production. May need to pull the drones. Another wave. Stalkers coming in. The Zerglings are far too thin here. And suddenly the stalker count too damn high to deal with. May have to give up the 4th base, which would be devastating when it comes to any sort of follow-up. But you can't have a follow-up you don't survive right now. Transfuse holds it together. The queens, the main target again. Trying to buy time for the Zerglings. Hydra's popping out. Oracle's mostly out of energy and almost out of HP. But the Hydras are going to be incredibly helpful. The DPS is required to deal with this. But Nightmare warped in some Zealots as a frontline option. Not charge lots, just meat shields to deal with the Zerg. And Hydras and Queens not going to deal with them as easily. Blows away 2 Oracles. Drones pulled off the line. It's so close right now. More Hydras coming out. The Blink Stalker Micro is impeccable as Nightmare battles back. The Zerglings trickling through. 16 drones down. The economic damage was done. And the Stalkers survive. Blocked forward. Another Queen. Another Hydra. There's only one left. And down they go. The rest of the Zerglings are coming out. Drones pulled off the line. But it's too late. Nightmare comes in swinging with a Blink Stalker all in. And he comes out with a victory. 2-1. What a clean execution and a well-played strategy. Nightmare quickly becoming one of the best Protoss out there. Really rounding it out. And 2 kind of mid-game all-ins. Though easily could have taken game 2 as well. Reynor getting caught just a bit off guard. Really struggling with the timing of unit production there. And it's kind of an art form and partially divination. But, wow, Nightmare. How many Stalkers did he actually lose? 18 for 168 Zerglings and 12 Queens. Well, hopefully it made your day a little bit better. Some really interesting play, especially out of Nightmare there. But more dramatic series than I expected. I guess we got the close series we were hoping for at the start. But thank you for watching. If you got the means of motivation, it'd be awesome to check out Patreon or YouTube membership. But I hear liking and subscribing is still free for now. Thank you for watching. If you haven't yet checked out, by the way, the second channel, Winter Gaming. Very original. You can find the link in the description or just, type it in, I guess, too. Works. But thank you for watching. I'll see you next time. Hope I made your day a little bit better. Good luck. Have fun. Stay chill.